What's up, guys? George Bilecki here with Boston has entered the chat. But hey, check out the latest episode of Foxborough Rush. Mike Vrabel kicked off coverage at the NFL Combine by talking to the media. So Travis Thomas and myself take a peek behind the curtain, break down everything he said, and go in depth as well with the defensive linemen and linebackers that will be working out to kick off Combine coverage. That's Foxborough Rush, wherever you get your podcast. New episodes dropping every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now, let's get to the chat. What's up, what's up, what's up? Bring it in, bring it in. Boston has entered the chat. George Bilecki here with Casey Hudson. Got a packed show for you guys today. Case, exciting time in sports. How are we doing today, though?
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. There's so much going on, so I feel like it's fun to be able to have all these conversations. It feels like I haven't seen you in like a week or so, but ever
since we fixed the NHL
right.
and the Four Nations.
Exactly. I'm like, we solved some mega things, and then it was just like silence. No, I'm kidding.
Because we did such a good job.
I couldn't agree more. So, like you said, I feel like everybody's coming off the Four Nations hangover,
yep.
And then like now we're in the swing of spring training and baseball and all these things. So life's good. How's it been going with you?
It's going good. That's exactly it. It's the come down from the Four Nations, which was fantastic. Now it's the comeback up. College basketball is winding down. March Madness is around the corner. NBA trade deadline talks are heating up, even NHL as well. And we got a ton in the show today. Is Gronk going to make another comeback? Another one back to the NFL. Find out how. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Also, Travis Kelce's future with the Chiefs has some closure. And we'll find out. We'll share with you what it holds. Plus, another basketball team coming to Boston. We talk with a group of investors behind bringing a WNBA franchise to the championship city. And as always, Ringside Review, Ethan and Jason hold it down, talking all Monday Night Raw on Netflix as well. But let's get started with how this all comes to be with Rob Gronkowski possibly making another comeback. Yeah, this was reported by, I think it's Cecil Lammy. And he reported on X, leak sources tell me, 4-time Super Bowl champion Rob Gronkowski is considering a return to the NFL. He worked with Sean Payton at Fox. That was last season, the season before this past one. And I'm told he loves Denver and quarterback Bo Nix. Two of his brothers, Dan and Chris, had short stints with the team. So, Rob Gronkowski retired from the Patriots, came back, played with Tom Brady in Tampa, is retired again, has been with Fox as a broadcaster. Now he can make another comeback to the NFL. What do you think, in case?
I don't know. I have some mixed emotions on this one because, for one, like if you're going to make a comeback and then not go back to the Patriots or Tampa Bay, it feels weird, But I know that the conversation is like, if you're going to come back, he's not going to come back for 1 year. You usually want to be a part of a team that can make more of an impression or playoff run or all of these things. And yeah, the Broncos kind of made a statement this previous season, but it's just kind of like, is it just to play? And if you're gonna just play, then like come back to the Patriots. Don't go to Denver. So I have such mixed emotions on I don't want to say the purpose here, but 35 years old. Yeah, Broncos need a tight end. I mean, it's probably going to be one of their go-tos in the draft, but make it make sense.
That's where I understand that too of Bo Nix. Like he's okay, he's good, but it's a relationship with Sean Payton. But also, like, there's no relationship with Mike Vrabel. And it's if you're talking quarterback, Drake May. Or, like, the sheer fact of it, too. If you want to come back and play, Eagles.
Right.
Like you would be a great complimentary piece, possibly. This is also a guy that retired after the 21-22 season.
True.
So he hasn't played in 3 years.
That's true.
Right? Like, this would be 4 years removed from football, kicking it off. You know what I think it really is, Case? Guy works at Fox, making good bread on their Sunday showcase of NFL football, trying to find a little leverage. If you guys don't pay me more, I'll go play for the Broncos.
And what do you think a team will pay him for just a short stint? 35, 6'6". Can he still move?
I don't know. I would think. Also, like a team, what are you going to pay for a guy that's a question mark, hasn't played in 3 or 4 years? I mean, that's like vet minimum.
Right.
In a way, if like it's Fox, it's like I would just kind of call the bluff. Like, all right, go ahead. Honestly.
I would. I'd call his bluff for sure. Because
that's where he talks about it and it's brought up and it's reported. And it's just like you haven't played in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And with Gronk, the way he played too, I mean, retired after his age 32 season, but that felt like he was like age 36 because of the way he played. He was a man amongst boys. He'd play with reckless abandon. That's what made him so good. Greatest tight end of all time. I mean, he was as a blocker and a receiver. I know you're big on tight ends.
Love him.
But it's okay. So now you're 3 years older, 35, 36 now. But like to that point, it's like really you're like 38, 39. Physical position. Can you play the same way? I see this. It's a leverage play to me.
Yeah, because kind of building off of that, especially if he's talking Broncos and Broncos have a need on the board for a tight end, they want to alleviate Drake May. There we go, Patriots on the brain. They want to alleviate Bo Nix. If there's one thing you know about Sean Payton when it comes to his offenses, he wants to eliminate or minimize his quarterback getting sacked as much as possible. So that means that Gronk is going to have to come in and be that physical tight end as well as an option, in the middle and stuff. I'll say this though, when I got a chance to cover him in Tampa Bay and he came out of retirement, answered the bird call, he said that he knew how to take care of his body better.
Yeah.
A lot of that, of course, was probably him jumping on the TB12 method because why not? Tom Brady was making everybody realize that they could feel 10 years younger if only. So maybe he's protected his body enough and taken care of himself to where he wouldn't feel like he's a 35-year-old trying to suit back up. But as for like pitching towards the Broncos, it's a tall role that has to be filled when it comes to the tight end position if he chooses to go there.
That's where, and like that's it too. You have to kind of be a focal point. There's not as many pieces around him. Like the run game's okay, the receiving room's all right, and that's where it's like, all right, so Sean Payton, and you like Bo Nix. Yeah, it's like Minnesota. You don't want to go to Minnesota. Los Angeles. You already live in LA, probably.
There you go.
Don't want to go to the Rams. It's like you want to go to Denver and like maybe make the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's the red flag. We sniffed right through it.
Yeah, I just needed to make more sense. Like, you could be friends all day, but like you're not going to come back in the league for 3 seasons.
Beat up your body.
Yeah, 3 seasons and like hope that Denver all of a sudden makes a run. Like I know he probably doesn't need any more rings, but I can't piece it together outside of that. The one perk from like the Broncos and of course Sean's point of view would be, hey, you bring in a guy like Rob Gronkowski, we still draft a tight end and they get to learn under one of the greatest tight ends to ever play the game, then sure, that could kind of balance out a little bit. But then that's more like, I don't want to call it charity, but that's Rob Gronkowski entering back just to like give something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then leaving it at that.
Yeah. I know. That's what seems weird. Our producer, Brendan, saying he has a tweet from Gronk's podcast. Go ahead, throw it up, Brenda. What's the tweet we got?
What is that?
Exactly like me. When Gronk's saying, that's his podcast with Julian Edelman of like, hey, you're going to come back. It's like Gronk sitting there. That's from Dudes on Dudes. Like, me? Talking about me? That's, of course, a video. It's like some guy was drafted. His boys are pranking him. He's sitting there just minding his business. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's like, me? Even when this report comes out, I feel like Gronk is scrolling. He's like, what? Me?
When did I?
Yes, exactly.
Make this decision? On
the other end, it sounds like Travis Kelce's coming back. Brett Veach, GM of the Chiefs, he spoke at the Combine in Indy, and he said, quote, for Travis Kelce, that he has that fire and desire to play. And he said, how we left at the end of the season is that he was fired up. I think we left as he'd be back, and we're excited to get him back and get him going. That's what he said at the Combine. This one's interesting. Kelce's played, this would be his 13th season. He'd be 36 in the upcoming season. Mm-hmm. But also, multiple Super Bowl wins, second greatest tight end of all time. And the window is still there because Patrick Mahomes is still his quarterback. This makes sense to come back.
Yeah,
this does. There need to be more around him. The workload can't be the same. This one makes sense, though.
100%, because I think we talked about it here on Boston is Under the Chat. I feel like we saw the most emotion on Travis Kelce's face and demeanor on the sideline.
Yeah.
Leading up to Super Bowl, but more specifically at the Super Bowl. And you don't feel those kinds of emotions in that weight and be like, well, won a couple rings, so like I'll go ahead and call it now. Like, no, he's still got some stuff left in the tank, I would for sure say. The weird part to me is to get him going more. Did you read that part and be like, think too much into it? Because I'm thinking to myself, when the roster was healthy top of the season for the Kansas City Chiefs, It was like, oh my gosh, there's so much versatility. There's so many targets here. The target share is going to be outstanding. And then all of a sudden, people started going down. Bodies started coming out to injury. And you still didn't really see a Travis Kelce get going.
Yeah.
So, like, I kind of got hung up on that. What did you make of the get going part?
No, that's the same thing of... like he just was never right. And it was like, felt like he was on a pitch count to start the season. Then he mentioned they get healthy. He just seemed the same. Like he would show up in his spots in the playoffs, and that's where you kind of get on like a star, like lingering, holding on to whatever talent they got. But it got to the point for him where it was like there was still something left to be desired.
Yeah.
And it just was never all there. Maybe he just completely reassesses the offseason And he goes, this is how I'm going to prepare. This is how I'm going to condition. This is how I'm going to lift. This is how I'm going to get into the season. And in a way, it's like, fine, if I'm a shell of myself, but I'm still winning Super Bowls because I'm clutch. The chemistry with him and Mahomes, you can't make up. Like,
Right.
that's what matters, and that's what comes through. And that's what I wonder, because he said after Super Bowl, he's like, I'm kicking the can down the road. Andy Reid seemed less, like, optimistic on Kelce returning. But for the GM to go, he's fired up, and how he left, he's coming back. That says a lot. So what you'd like is Brett Veach, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Veach and Reed obviously lead the whole football operation there. Those guys to be more in line with Kelce. I think he comes back, though, because, again, you missed out on the 3-peat, but you could still get another Super Bowl ring. That'd be 4 for him if he gets it.
Yeah, I mean, and you make a good point as to, like, you could be a shell of yourself, but, you get an opportunity to win. It just doesn't seem like Kelce's DNA. Like, think about heading into I don't know how this
But maybe that's
offseason's
reality
gonna
of, like,
look.
the father time, Like,
That's
it could not
true.
be part of your DNA, but you got to be a little humble.
That's true. You got to succumb to it sometimes. But it's just like, usually, for instance, last offseason heading into this year, the odds in terms of, like, the yardage and, like, his production rate and how involved he's going to be in that offense.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to translate now, saying that he's fired up, he's sticking around. Like, I wonder if all the numbers are going to say we're going to get him just as heavily involved just in case.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you can't deny that connection. And at the end of the day, that's a connection that they needed more often than not in order to get them through better wins.
Yeah.
Because they had a lot of ugly ones.
And the conversation will be there, too, of, hey, you're going to make this much money, but you're this productive. You want to win a ring? We need an offensive line. We need more guys around you. Maybe take the pay cut. Again, will you take that cup of humility? Hey, if you want to stream the entire Red Sox season with the NESN 360 annual plan, it's now available at an all-new reduced price of just $20 a month, paid annually. And for a limited time, get 4 free tickets to Fenway with your purchase. Visit NESN360.com to sign up today. That's NESN360.com. Now throw it to our interview with Michael Carter-Williams and Mandy Carter-Zegarowski, part of the investment firm trying to bring a WNBA team to Boston. He's Michael Carter-Williams. She's Mandy Carter-Zegarowski. They are 2 parts of Boston women's basketball partners, and they're part of the group hoping to bring the WNBA to Boston. Guys, thank you so much for joining the show. Michael, I want to start with you, man. Where did this vision, where did this dream all start of bringing an expansion franchise in the WNBA to Boston?
Over some good Thanksgiving food. We were just kind of just sitting there talking, my mom and I, and we were just saying how great it would be for, Boston to have a WNBA team. We were first like, I can't believe they don't have a WNBA team, right? You talk about like rivalries and sports and like, there's no bigger place than Boston when you're talking about, rivalries, Lakers, Celtics, Red Sox, Yankees, right? So, for a league to not have a Boston team, I think is, we were kind of surprised that they didn't.
And Mandy, when Michael brings this conversation to you, what went through your mind? Were you like, oh, okay? Or were you intrigued of like, all right, I want to be a part of this. I want to make it happen.
I think at first we were kind of just talking casually about it. And, my husband, Zach, got a little bit involved too. And he was pretty excited about it. And so once they, I think we talked to another Bob about it a little bit. And once, we talked to Bob and someone from the outside, because we're always talking hoop in our house. So, and Bob kind of was like, hey, this could really, be something. We kind of started to really put things in motion.
I love that you guys started talking about all of this and brainstorming over Thanksgiving. I don't think there's a better way to start cranking out some details. But more importantly, what made you feel like now is the time? Timing is everything. We're getting a lot more exposure when it comes to the WNBA. So what made it feel like, hey, let's throw our hat in the rink now?
Go ahead, Mom.
Well, I think the expansion, the ideas that we were hearing about the WNBA expanding, it was like, okay, well, if they're looking at having more teams in the league, maybe this is the time that we start to really look into it. Whether it happens or not, let's inquire. Let's get some answers to questions on timing and really just collect information on it.
And how did that next step come along? Oh, Michael, go ahead. Yeah.
No. I was going to say, too, I mean, if you look at the landscape of the WNBA and the new players coming into the league and just the popularity overall, we were like, man, what better time is now? I mean, obviously, 5 years ago, if you fast forward to now, then you could be like, oh, 5 years ago was the perfect time because everything exploded. But, no one knew that, right? The Caitlin Clark effect and that trickling down to other great, female athletes getting recognized in the W. It was just, it was kind of the perfect storm in a way.
And you guys, you've been part of the institution that is basketball in Massachusetts. Like Michael, obviously you grew up, went to high school, did your prep time in Rhode Island. But when I first interviewed you, you told me about your mom and your dad, how they're lifetime coaches. They still put so much into the game. What does it mean to you guys to be a part of something like this? Just putting this group together and taking that first step to bring professional basketball, women's basketball to Boston. When, Mandy, I know you are so hands-on with the MCW Stars and youth hoops, and of course just basketball overall. So Mandy, what does it mean to you to, go from that first step of that dream conversation at Thanksgiving to now get to this point where it feels real and it's not just you two having this convo, it's all of the Boston area now?
It feels pretty amazing. I've always said if it doesn't happen right away, just this process and being able to talk about it, the conversation itself is exciting. Everyone, it's contagious. The parents and families in our program that have read about it so far are really excited. People in the community are stopping me now, just asking questions about it, and really excited about the idea that this could actually really, happen. And right now it feels a little bit surreal. It all moved pretty fast, but we are just super excited overall about it.
Oh, I'm sure Boston would be completely elated. I mean, I'm new to the Massachusetts area, but I have heard since birth how much this is a sports town. I do have to ask about how the partnerships will come into play here, because Donnie Wahlberg is a name being kicked around that you guys would get things going with. So how did this collaboration come about and the conversation start with Donnie?
A guy named Greg, he's a part of our team, has a connection with Donnie and Mark. So he reached out to Donnie and told him just about our ideas. And Donnie was like, man, like that's a dream come true for me and my family as well. Like, right, to bring a WNBA team to Boston, is a part of history for the city. Right. And we want to be a part of that. So I think, just everyone that we have spoken to thus far about it and the steps that we've taken, to even get to the point that we're at is pretty amazing.
Yeah, you guys, you have the city, you have the investors, the leaders. What's next in this process? Is it expansion? Is it possibly maybe buying the Sun and bringing them here? What's next to get from the point of, all right, this is the idea we put together. Now we have Donnie and the other investors. What's that next step in all of this?
Honestly, I think we're exploring all options. We're trying to see the landscape here of what's the possibility that we could bring a team to Boston, whether it's an expansion team, whether it's buying a team that's, looking to sell. I think the biggest thing for us is, by any means necessary, let's really get a team to Boston.
How do you compete with cities like Philly and Houston, Austin and Charlotte, these other major cities that want to bring in a WNBA team? But like I mentioned, Boston is a sports city or a championship town. Anything in relation to saying that sports matter here and everybody wants to get behind you guys and rally?
Yeah, I think that's huge.
We're title town. We're title town. That's what we got. We got the hardware to show why we can compete with these other cities.
It is as simple as that. I can't argue that one. You kind of shut that door. Yeah.
We have the hardware. I mean, we have the fans, we have the community. Our fans are, they are no joke. I was more afraid for Michael to come play in Boston as against the Celtics than when I was in any other city, because the crowd, they don't care where you're from at that time of the game. It was all about the Celtics. So these fans they're amazing, so. And just the community that we have an opportunity to get involved in the community. Basketball's been so much to our family. It's been our family time. It's been our quality time. We've struggled through basketball together. We've had, great fun times together. So to be able to bring a WNBA team here and have, families participate and watch and see women in their profession, I think would just be a great opportunity.
Yeah, it's a simple of, if you're playing for Boston, they don't care where you're from. You wear the jersey with that city on it, and that's what makes the city so great. We've seen when the PWHL launched, and Boston was one of the original cities to have a team, sold out arena right away, everyone rallying around that team. We keep mentioning it, but it's the truth of it that you guys are part of the fabric of basketball in this community. How much have you seen basketball, for whether it's youth girls basketball, whether it's women's basketball professionally, what has jumped out to you when you've seen the growth from, Mandy, when you're coming up as a college player, becoming a coach, to then when you're raising your kids as players, to where it is now? How much have you seen it grow?
Oh, it's grown so much. It's really it for me. I don't really remember going to many college games, and it just wasn't as big. For your birthday, you were hoping for Celtics tickets. There wasn't really a thought of watching, women play basketball, and to have what's going on right now it really is unbelievable. It's so much fun, and it's bringing so many more young girls out to play basketball and stay active, which is great.
I think the recipe is they're starting to illuminate and magnify the attention in college. I mean, right now we're talking a lot about UCLA basketball and like USC women's basketball. UConn's not the only topic of discussion. So it's starting in college and translating to the WNBA just helps and goes back to Mike and your point of like the timing of this. How's the support felt? Because I'm seeing a number of names that are just supporting this and wanting to get behind you guys to have a team take place in Boston. I mean, Joe Mazzulla is another one that said this is a sports town and this is only going to add, as you mentioned, to the community, to what this sports town and title town, as Mike said, is going to mean. So what's been the biggest surprise in terms of the support?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said before, like any meeting that we've been on to kind of present of what we're trying to do, it's like I've never been a part of so many business meetings where you just bat 100%. Like everyone wants to be involved. Everyone wants to participate in any way possible. Like the love that we're getting and not only from, whoever's, involved with business wise, but even people who aren't, right? I've gotten so many messages on Instagram, people texting me, hey, whatever you need, I'd love to be involved. I'd love to help. Just the support overall. I feel like honestly, I feel like it's just the beginning, right? Like in my mind, I feel like we're going to get a team to Boston. And, when that does happen, I feel like it's really going to explode.
I got to ask, do you guys have that goal year in mind? I know that Golden State's going to get a team. Seattle and Portland are next up for the WNBA. But down the road, is there a goal year that you're at least putting out there?
No, there's no really year in mind. I mean, obviously, just by nature, we want it to be as fast as possible. So, there's no goal date in mind, but the quicker the better. I'm trying to talk here without giving too much away.
Yeah. Well, and I think more importantly, we want to do it right. We want we want WNBA players to feel like professionals. We want things set up. We want, the right people and the right organizations to make sure that everything is in place when it happens.
And I love that.
No, I was going to say that's a good point, right? A lot of our focus has been on, I played in the NBA for 9 years, right? And we've known that the W doesn't get treated the same as the NBA, and it probably won't for a period of time, which is great. But the goal is to, get these women, what they deserve. They're professional athletes, right? They should have the best treatment. They should have the best facilities. They should, everything should be top notch. And I think from my experience in playing in the NBA for 9 years, I've experienced that. So I know what that looks like. I know what it is to walk into work every day and to know that I have that support for whatever I need, whether it's injuries, whether I want to improve on something, right? Or I need to, even recovery stuff. I think it's super important that we establish Boston as, if you want to come play in Boston, you're going to receive, the best of the best.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. I love that you point that out. The A of we're not going to rush it. We're going to do it right. Do it right or don't do it at all. And then, Mike, you bring that perspective, a guy that has played at every level. For Mandy and Mike, both of you guys. Mandy, I'll start with you. What does it feel like now to go from that part of you were a player, you were a coach, now it's governor, it's investor, right? It's being the one that calls the shots, makes these big decisions. How much has your past experience helped you now when you're fielding those questions in meeting rooms and even when you're coming up with a vision for what this team can be, Mandy?
It's everything, to start as, I started out coaching like kindergarten through third graders and just getting to know youth in general and the impact that professional athletes have on youth and what an opportunity they have to have that impact. And then, to work grassroots for many, many years to now put now I'm in a position where we're trying to be able to have that whole outlook and understanding of what, fans and community and investors and, everybody really governing it, just what they're looking for and to ask the right questions and to be able to have an understanding of all of it because of my past experience has been really beneficial.
I'm stacking off of that question because it's tremendous to be able to wear so many different hats and carry so many different perspectives. And I think in professional sports, there's a lot of comparisons to old school and new school. So now kind of coming in from an investor and kind of ownership approach, like what's something that you would want to see change in basketball from the time that you first started out in it to now the role that you would play in it?
Well, I think a lot has changed, and I think that's been, unbelievable. I think this isn't just about, young girls watching the WNBA. I think young boys are, I think teen boys are, I think, men are interested in watching, and the equality that Michael was talking about earlier. I think that is going to be a consistent goal that we try to bring here to Boston and hopefully be a part of, just seeing that across the board everywhere.
And what's it feel like now to, for Mandy and for Mike, both of you guys, this is also, you guys are both part of Boston Women's Basketball Partners. But Mandy, you're Mike's mom. Mike, you were coached by Mandy, raised by her. What does it feel like to go through this journey together with both of you guys where basketball has led to so many opportunities for you two, and now together you're going to possibly open up so many opportunities for professional women's basketball players in Boston?
As weird as it sounds and as humble as I'm saying this, it almost feels like par of the course for, my family and how we grew up. All my brothers and sisters, we played Division I basketball. Basketball has been our thing in our household. We watch games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever game's on. It's been a thing for our family, since I was born. So it feels like, we started an AAU program, MCW Stars. We were really successful, and still continuing to do so. And then, when the idea of the WNBA came upon us, it started off with an idea, like we said, and then, it kind of came into fruition and kind of came pretty real. And, it feels right. It just feels like, something that we can do. It's something that, we just didn't start being fans of women's basketball or the WNBA, right? We have a long history of being in females, in girls basketball, from, third graders to, high schoolers. So it just feels like we belong in, where we are.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw a hypothetical at both of you guys. Say that the team was established and it was situated right here, right now. Who are some top players that you would just love to represent Boston?
And the W or
in the WNBA?
Ooh, that's a good question.
They're already in the WNBA?
Hey, go with the college prospects.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't hate Juju Watkins hooping in Boston right now.
I was going to say, yeah, Juju.
I was going to say, yeah, Juju would be great. You could choose any one of them from Notre Dame. They're hooping right now, like they're killing.
They are.
There's so many great players out there. We'd be lucky to have, honestly, any one of them. We'd be lucky to have a team. I know whoever's putting on the jersey, they're going to see our passion. And wanting to win and bring a championship to Boston. So, I know we're going to get the best out of these women, and I think it's going to be an exciting moment.
And Mandy, how important is it for you to be a part of these business meetings?
If Asia Wilson wants to come through and play for us, we'd be happy.
I knew there was a name somewhere in the mix.
We'd be happy with that. I wouldn't mind. It wouldn't hurt.
Hey, league MVP, one of the best players in all of hoops right now. Come on. I like that. Mandy,
we're close. Hey, listen, we're closer to Miami, right? We're closer to Miami than Vegas is. You go see, hubby over there. So
yeah, right.
Direct flights, Boston to Miami. Those are routine. Those are daily too.
It's quick. It's not Vegas.
And how important is it the players like the Angel Reeses, the Caitlin Clarks, right? The Arike Ogunbowales too, like these superstars that are in this league right now. How important is that for this league to continue to grow and flourish? So when expansion franchise conversations come up, it doesn't sound crazy. Like 3 teams are going to be added in the next 2 years, and it's par for the course because thank you to the superstars that continue to play so well, elevate the game, and put it in such a big spotlight.
Yeah, there's a lot of good players out there. A lot. I don't think that there's going to be a problem rostering, competitively at all.
Someone wants to be the queen of Boston, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Somebody's got to be.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
No,
They're gonna make history. They're gonna make history here. So, yeah, first team.
So excited. Oh, me. What did you guys make of the Unrivaled series? Because now we're talking about superstars. I would love to pick your brains and get your thoughts on kind of how that played out and it being, placed within the season and off season as it was.
I think it's great. It's been great.
No, I thought it's been great, right, to watch the Unrivaled, how the format is, playing the one-on-one games, playing the 3-on-3, all that stuff is been really, really awesome. And I think you talk about, yeah, you can have that. You talk about, giving women, kind of what they deserve. And, as far as I heard from Unrivaled, right, everything is top notch. They're treated very, very well. Where they're staying is great. So to me, it's been awesome, right? It's a different perspective on basketball. It's something new. It's creative. I've loved it.
Yeah, it's keeping everyone engaged. It used to be the season's over. A lot of the players go overseas. We don't see them, hear about them or anything. So it's keeping. I think it's great because now, we're continuing to see, the professional players play.
And it's a competition for the W.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was going to say it is, but it's also trend setting, right? Like, we're floating around with the NBA playing one-on-one during the All-Star game, right? Like, it's not easy to go out there and play, one-on-one, 2-on-2, 3-on-3 in front of, a lot of people, right? With the world watching, right? It takes some guts to get out there and say, okay, I got to have ultimate faith in my skills. In a 5-on-5 game, you can hide a little bit. You can stand in the corner. You can, there's no hiding in one-on-one. So it shows the courage, like, to go out there and be like, yeah, I'm going to show off my skills.
Yeah, and if it continues to push the WNBA to get better, basketball to get better, we're all for it. You guys are going to make basketball better by getting this group together. Bring that team, the professional WNBA team, to Boston. He's Michael Carter-Williams. She's Mandy Carter-Zegarowski. They're part of Boston Women's Basketball Partners. I appreciate you guys taking some time and hopping on the chat. Thank you so much for all you're doing for sports, especially here in Boston.
Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
For the latest on the Celtics and everything going on in the NBA, check out Nesson's basketball podcast, Hold My Banner, hosted by Travis Thomas and Ante Campbell. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever else podcasts are found. That's Hold My Banner. New episodes dropping every week. Now to the Ringside Review. Here's Ethan and Jason with their Elimination Chamber predictions.
Welcome into another edition of Ringside Review. I am Ethan Hrissadulu, and as always, joined alongside by Nesson.com's Jason Unpressor. We are less than a week away from Elimination Chamber. This past Monday Night Raw, and I'm glad it wasn't just me, felt a little bit more on the downside. Felt like we're just kind of getting through it, maybe adding a little bit of smoke to who might win the men's chamber, just to keep the confusion in there a little bit. But overall, this was not the biggest, I guess I would say, in terms of go-home shows that I've seen in some time, but it did add a little bit more intrigue into both these matches. But Jason, we'll start first. Just kind of the night itself. Not a ton. The highlight of the night, the sponsored highlight of the night, was literally Rock Cody segment from SmackDown. I think that kind of gave me a little bit more credibility in how I felt about the night overall, but there are a couple of things we'll talk about before we dive into some Elimination Chamber preview stuff. So starting with the Rock and Cody segment, we'll start there because it was last week, but I feel like it's important that we touch on this here. Cody Rhodes and Rock have a segment that's a little bit awkward. There were certain points where I felt like The Rock maybe needs to have somebody at least to look at what he's going to say and not let him freelance a little too much. But the idea here seems to be the devil is promising the good guy everything and then some, should he so choose to side with him. I want to hear your thoughts on where this is heading and why we're getting this as opposed to maybe Rock being more physically involved, because it seems like he's going to be more just a figure in the build to WrestleMania as opposed to being in a match. But I want to get your thoughts on where WWE might be trying to go with this.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Ethan, this segment overall was about Cody, having this devil over his shoulder, but the way they got there was very awkward, and it really does show that no one is telling The Rock no. It's a very meta kind of thing where he can kind of just say and do whatever he wants, and people just cheer regardless because he's The Rock, and it's not very often The Rock appears on a television show, and so people are just appreciative of that. And overall, I'm very curious about where this goes. I kind of have a theory about maybe if The Rock does physically get involved, but I do agree with you that this was kind of a very strange segment, but big enough because it is The Rock back on WWE TV, and so that's probably the biggest reason why it was a sponsored segment on Raw itself.
Yeah, I mean, I get the overall, the point that they're trying to make with here, and I think it's going to add some intrigue into some of the predictions we have for the Elimination Chamber, I think, based off what the notes are saying here from the two of us. But I like the idea that this almost feels kind of like a full circle moment for The Rock. Because if you go back to way back into the Attitude Era days, The Rock being a part of that corporate Vince McMahon-led group that they had back in the day as his champion, it almost feels like now The Rock's career is kind of coming into a full circle where he's in that same position and now he can offer it out to somebody else. And he's, rather than it being more behind the scenes, is very in front of us, The Rock is open and honestly being like, take my offer, I will give you everything. And I think it's a really interesting route to go. And this could potentially lead us into the heel turn that seems to be speculated by everyone on the internet right now in the internet wrestling community about Cody Rhodes and where his career can go. And if maybe some people are getting a little tired of the babyface run and is it time to flip heel sort of deal. So what are your thoughts on that? You think this could this lead into maybe that potential heel turn that people are speculating on?
I will say this for people who didn't watch Cody's run in AEW, this is a similar song and dance that he played in AEW of flirting with a heel turn, but never actually doing the heel turn. Cody is very protective of his character. He mentioned it on Raw, how he's this sort of linchpin for his family, especially for his daughter Liberty. He's very protective of that, and it very seemingly does play into real life and character itself. And so I'm not too sure how much he actually does want to be a heel character, even though storyline wise might make sense. However, he is definitely very protective of his image, his public image, especially. You see him interact with kids and other fans as well. I think he's very protective of that. And so I do understand that storyline-wise, it might be interesting to see him play a heel, but he's definitely played this song and dance before of, flirting between heel and face.
Thinking back to his heel days and his initial run to WWE, I do love the idea now of an established Cody Rhodes being able to go full-blown heel, because the possibilities with his dad's being Dusty and the legacy of his family and what he could throw at the audience seem endless, and there's just so much ammunition I'd love to see him fire off, but hopefully we get to that eventually. However, I don't think that's where they're going just yet, and we'll talk about that in a second when we get to the Elimination Chamber previews. But real quickly, before we do that, something that I've kind of been ragging on myself the last few weeks here, and I feel like we need to revisit it because I'm continuing to just have a gripe about it what feels like every single week. Jay and Gunther, the build. Here I am back again, just throwing more dirt and trying to bury this whole thing. I am not thrilled with the way Gunther's match against Akira Tozawa went last night. For me, I look at Jay and Gunther in its simplest form as David versus Goliath. Everyone is doubting Jay. I mean, you even had the segment last night that he had with Grayson Waller and his tag team partner, who's slipping my name right now. Theory, thank you. Man, to think that he had a match with John Cena at WrestleMania just a few years ago, and he beat him. Somebody I'm forgetting. But yes, so even like that with that segment too, everyone's doubting Jey Uso at this point here. And for me, seeing Gunther underestimate someone like Akira Tozawa, who has not really done much in WWE, if at all anything really, and not just go out there and completely squash him to make a statement to Jay as in like, this is what I'm going to do to you. And even though we did eventually kind of get there because he choked out Akira, he did the same thing to Otis as well. I don't like seeing Gunther sell right now. I want to see him be the immovable object, I guess, in this matchup here between the two. What are your thoughts?
I definitely understand that sentiment. I do agree that Gunther shouldn't be selling too much, but for me, the segment kind of played towards Akira Tozawa's past. He was a very accomplished, like the top guy in Dragon Gate before his time in WWE, and so that was kind of what he was playing towards. Tozawa was this accomplished international wrestler, even an indie star. Wrestled in the American Independence, PWG. I think he was in Dragon Gate USA as well, and so he was kind of playing towards that. This very serious wrestler is now a comedic gimmick with Otis and Maxine Dupree, and he kind of is always mocking Jey Uso because he's not very much an accomplished in-ring wrestler. His character is about how, the mat is sacred and all that. And so, but Jey Uso is just playing to the fans, and he's more of a joke kind of act. And so that's what I kind of saw that segment as. But I do agree with you, Ethan, that this build has been very bad. And I'm very curious about, do you think this match could main event night one of WrestleMania?
That is something I feel like I'm asking myself every single week. And at this point, the way the build is going, I know they've been saying it's a main event match, and everyone online seems to expect it's going to have to main event because that's the way they've been billing it. But I almost feel like we're heading in the direction of WWE calls it a main event match, and it's maybe halfway through night one or night two, and they're like, oh yeah, there's a co-main event to night two of WrestleMania as it plays second fiddle to whatever happens with Cody Rhodes and his championship. So we'll see. But I like your points that you made there because, as I have stated on here before, I am a WWE guy. There are people in the IWC probably will hate me for saying that. I don't watch anything else. This is just what I have the time for and what I grew up enjoying. But to hear that side of things and getting a better understanding of where Akira Tozawa comes from and why that may be happening, I like it. But in the scope of just this build here, I want to see Gunther chopping people into the mat week after week after week, looking in that camera and going, Jay, it's you. That is going to be you at WrestleMania kind of deal. Now, we'll segue out of that. We'll talk about what I'm sure everyone's here to hear. We got Elimination Chamber just a few days away. Men's and women's matches. We'll start with the women's match first. We have Bayley, Roxanne Perez, Naomi, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, and of course, Alexa Bliss as well. This is one that, with what happened last night on Raw and the tag team titles changing hands, I feel like they kind of threw a big wrench into the match now because it felt like there was maybe Alexa Bliss, Bayley as front runners. You had Roxanne Perez as the wild card. I never really considered Bianca and Naomi too much because they had championships, and Liv just kind of felt like she was moving out of the singles competition stuff. But now Bianca and Naomi both don't have a championship right now. Title rematches aren't required anymore in WWE and haven't been for a while. It kind of opens the window for them. And I mean, do they maybe put a title on Liv to make it look like she doesn't have a chance to win, but she ends up winning? I feel like the door's wide open on this one.
Yeah, it's definitely could go either direction. It's very interesting as well because Charlotte, she hasn't really appeared on Raw. She has appeared on SmackDown antagonizing Tiffany Stratton, and so I don't know if that's a fake out or not because obviously Rhea Ripley, that she has her match against Io Sky for some reason after the pay-per-view. Still not sure why they did that.
Still wondering what is up with that.
I mean, maybe that's another wrench to throw into this match. You don't know who's going to win. They don't want to telegraph it so easily, or they still maybe are trying to figure out who's going to win because it's kind of just a mixed bag of possible contenders, as you mentioned. Maybe Bianca Belair. It's a time for her to make a singles run after dropping the tag titles, or maybe Liv Morgan is back in the title scene and we have to do Liv Rhea once again. I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. So I'll throw it out to you first because I had a really hard time with this one and I kind of used your answer to help me pick mine. Who do you have winning? Who comes out and is challenging for a championship at WrestleMania?
For me, it's Alexa Bliss. I'm not sure who she's going to challenge, but especially from crowd reactions, people really like Alexa Bliss, and not only just her return, but I think that she's a really popular wrestler within that division, and there's not really much that sways me towards anyone else of the competitors. I still think Belair, I think they're waiting for Jade Cargill to come back, and they're doing a non-title action with her, and so I can see them going into a program. And so for Bliss, I think with the tease of the Fiend stuff. I think, that's a very big merch seller as well. And so I think they really want to play that up there with her, the Fiend persona, and just like that past as well. Trying to, reignite, especially with the White Six. They haven't really appeared much on television. So maybe trying to revive that little like storyline or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I do like Alexa Bliss, and honestly, in my eyes, she is kind of the odds-on favorite here. I feel like her return at the Rumble was received so well, it almost feels like it would be a bit of a misstep to not have her in a WrestleMania Championship match. So I like your pick of Alexa Bliss. If you hadn't picked her, that's probably who I'm going with. I tried to come up with a different answer and a logical reason, I guess, as to why, and I think I'm going to go Bayley just because what is Bayley going to do if she's not challenging for that championship, especially when you consider the fact that just last year alone, she was in a championship match for a title. And I feel like for her right now, not lost in the shuffle, but not with a clear direction, Roxanne Perez to me is a really fun wild card. And that's like one I almost would want to see just for the sake of difference in the title picture. But I mean, with the tag title change with Naomi and Bianca Belair, and to your point with Cargill as well, I think something is going to happen with her eventual return at some point. So they're kind of out of the picture for me right now, although there's a piece of me that thinks maybe the title's coming off of them opens up something for like Bianca. But between that and then Liv Morgan now having a championship, I don't think they're going to have her going into WrestleMania to challenge Rhea Ripley with a title already around her waist. I feel like that clogs up that match with his hardware as far as I'm concerned. And again, if it's not Alexa Bliss, it just kind of leaves me with Bayley. So in no direction for Bayley. I'm giving her my direction. Go to WrestleMania, challenge for a championship, whoever it may be against, and we just see if she wins or loses there. I would assume maybe a loss since she won last year, but who knows. The men's match, though, this is one that there is a number of directions I think we can really go with this, but John Cena, CM Punk, Logan Paul, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and of course, Damian Priest. We cannot forget about Damian Priest, who I kind of feel like is getting forgotten in this build here. But the six-man match for the men's championship opportunity against Cody Rhodes right now, I really think the door is wide open for just about anyone to win this aside from Logan Paul and Damian Priest. I even still think there's a sliver of hope for Drew, but he's like in the pecking order, number 4 between the big 3 that I have marked off for this one here. I want to hear who you have and why. We both have some pretty thought out theories, it seems like, based off what our notes are saying here. So give me your guy and why you have him winning.
So I have CM Punk winning the Chamber. For one, he's been pretty consistent about why he wants to win the match and having the motivation to win the match. And this is where I think the Rock Cody stuff goes, circling back to that segment. I kind of think Punk wins this and gets to challenge Cody, and sort of circling back to the Punk and Rock's history, where The Rock, as for CM Punk fans might remember, The Rock beat CM Punk, ending his long title reign in 2013, kind of stole his spot at WrestleMania to do that rematch against Cena. And so I think they could circle back to that, where maybe Rock doesn't want Punk to face Cody, to compromise his champion, so to speak. And so, as we remember, Punk has that favor from Paul Heyman, and so who does he call up? Maybe Roman Reigns. And so if this is assuming The Rock is actually going to get physical at WrestleMania and have a match, maybe that's how you do Rock Roman, and you can still have Punk Cody, which is probably your best big money feud for Cody Rhodes outside of your pick, Ethan.
All right, you just hit me with a couple of things I did not anticipate there. You took a hard left when I thought you were going right. Okay, so maybe CM Punk calling in a favor with Roman Reigns being involved. I wasn't ready for that. I like the CM Punk pick. I really like the going back to the history between Punk and Rock basically stealing his spotlight at WrestleMania. I really think there's so much to that could be involved if Rock's going to be involved in this whole story here. For me, I think there's a chance that we are looking at a potential heel turn, and it's through John Cena. I think John Cena, desperate to win himself his 17th championship, is going into the Chamber, and what happens here, Cody, like you were saying earlier, very protective of his character, flirting with the heel turn, but not actually making the heel turn. This is the opportunity for a desperate John Cena, who kind of did a little bit of a heel thing and shoehorning himself into this match here without having to earn his opportunity. It has been absent ever since. Comes in, wins the match, Cody says no at Chamber to Rock and maybe takes the Rock up on this offer. And why not? John Cena, who wants to cement himself and was just talking best for business, me winning the championship. He sounds like the company man that The Rock is asking Cody to be right now. There's a lot of bits and pieces that seem to be pointing to John Cena heel turn. And the way I see it, you don't need John Cena to sell merchandise anymore. That's what Cody Rhodes is doing. He is the John Cena merch guy that John Cena was for all those years. If you don't want to turn Cody heel, what better time than in Cena's final run to finally pull the trigger on a heel-esque John Cena where he aligns himself with the authority type deal, and we get this wild run of Cena as 17th champion, and he's a heel while doing it. That's something I don't think anyone would see coming, and I've just been stewing on this for days now. So this is what I'm hoping for, and I really hope to see. But that all being said, Elimination Chamber. We are closing in, just days away. Comment down below. Let me know who your predictions are. Jason's, I'm sure, just as curious as well. But from me, from Jason, if you made it to the end, as always, greatly appreciated. We'll see you on another episode of Ringside Review.
Always a good one. I loved the convo with Mike and Mandy.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I don't know if there's breaking news going on in the WNBA. There's a big retirement that's going down. So to see how they piece together everything and all of their insight, that's going to be tremendous to see how they start putting the pieces together or continue putting the pieces together and your ability to track that. And
also for them just pulling on the former player, the former coach, what they do, and bringing that to a front office, to an ownership standpoint. It's so important. And them teaming up with a guy like Donnie Wahlberg and the rest, people that care about Boston and basketball in Boston as well. She's Casey Hudson. I'm George Balecki. This was Boston Has Entered the Chat. Shout out to Mike and Mandy for joining the show. Shout out Jason and Nathan as well. Shout out to you guys for making us a part of your day. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow.